I've got a gentleman here who's Chris Guerrero.
Yes,
from
Roger.
Shell.
Nice
How
to
are
meet you. I'm fantastic. It's a
good.
lovely day in Vegas.
Isn't it ever?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Well, tell me about the new Shell lubricants that you're bringing into the marketplace, and it's going to help everybody meet the Tier 4 and all of the environmental concerns that we have.
Yeah, it's quite interesting. If you look at the lubricants category as a whole and you look at the development of technology for lubricants, it's constantly defined by engine changes.
Right.
And the one thing that we've seen is a continuing restriction on the amount of NOx, nitrous oxides, and particulate matter in the industry. On highway, it's predated what we see in the Tier 4 applications today. So you're starting to see things like diesel particulate filters today, select catalytic reduction, so the introduction of urea systems into market. But what's coming up next moves the focus, because just when you think you can't regulate any more emissions, the government shifts focus a little bit and says there's something else we can do here, right?
Yeah. So what causes PC-11 to be such a great system?
It's going to be interesting because it's really being driven by a focus on reduction of greenhouse gas emissions. So fuel economy improvements is what the government is mandating for engine manufacturers. That means they've got to change their engine designs, which means they're going to have different operating parameters that the lubricant's going to have to perform in.
Temperature being one.
You got it. So
major concern.
4 key areas that we're looking for improvements in this oil category versus the last one are oxidation stability. So just what you said about high temperature, the engine manufacturers speculate they could see up to a 10 degrees Celsius increase in operating temperature on their engine. That puts more strain on your oil. So you have to have a better ability to resist that heat and resist thickening of the oil in that application. The second area is going to be in terms of aeration control. So the industry just wants a little bit better test in terms of how well does that oil manage air that's trapped in the system so you don't have foaming. The next area that you're going to have is scuffing or adhesive wear. What the industry tests for today isn't the metal-to-metal contact that can occur when lubrication breaks down. So there's a new test that's going to be introduced to make sure that doesn't happen with new products. And the last one's going to be shear stability, which is the ability for an oil to stay in grade, to stay thick when it needs to be thick.
Right.
That's particularly important because what's interesting for this category, and particularly for our viewers out there, you're actually looking at 2 categories of oil in one. A backwards compatible oil that's a traditional viscosity grade.
That was going to be my next question. I was going to be asking, is this applicable to the old engines in addition to the new?
So the answer is yes and no.
Because
they're taking right now a 2 subcategory approach.
Right.
You'll have one category of the oil that is backwards compatible, a traditional viscosity. And then you'll have one lighter fluid that is intended to deliver fuel economy benefits. The tricky bit here is when we talk about oil, we usually talk about a 15W40.
Absolutely.
Most folks know that, right? So a 40 weight isn't a 40 weight, isn't a 40 weight. And by that I mean, I have an 8-year-old son. He plays soccer, okay? First time I took him to practice, my 8-year-old son looked a lot different than some of the other 8-year-old sons that were out there because they were almost 9.
Sure.
It's the same thing with a 40 weight or a 30 weight. You can have a very thick 30 weight, almost a 40, or you can have a very thin 30 weight, almost a 20. And what the industry is saying is moving forward to guarantee fuel economy benefits, they're going to take a new measure of viscosity called high temperature, high shear. At a higher temperature, what is the thickness of that oil? So the number that we throw around today for a 30 weight is a 3.2 high temperature, high shear number. They want it down around a 2.9 or 3.2. So a thinner fluid, which means shear stability is going to be even more critical moving forward so that customers know you'll maintain that viscosity so you can prevent that metal-to-metal contact that causes adhesive wear. So a lot to go forward on with this category and a lot of work already underway, Roger.
Absolutely. Well, I want to say thanks for stopping by and telling us about this new product because this is going to be very, very important to anybody who owns any kind of a machine.
Well, that's it. The one thing that's constant is change, and as my dad said, the only people that look forward to it are babies with wet diapers, and even they cry when it happens, right?
Thanks a lot.
All right, Roger, take care.
Much success. Shell talking about their PC-11, their new oil product that's coming out for Tier 4 final engines, and